Good evening, beautiful people. I hope you're having a great time wherever you are. It's a Wednesday. You're listening to Jazz Outside the Box, your space for sonic engagements. This is your boy Zuko Yigi. I'm broadcasting live from East London studios at KNR Radio, according to you. Today is a special one. I'm having my beautiful friend. She's here already. I'm going to bring her in, or should I say through, in just about a moment. But for now, let's just listen to music. See you in a minute. Welcome again. If you just joined in, you're listening to Jazz Outside the Box, your space for sonic engagements. I did tell you that this evening we are having a very special guest, a great friend I've known for plus minus maybe close to 10 years now.
Yeah, close.
Yeah. Welcome, Natiska. People have been waiting for you. I think we have a message already. And
Is it from my mom?
no, it's from it's the message is from Atenko Simbiti.
Ati.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's my friend.
cool. Ati is saying go Nateska.
Oh, shame.
Sweet short like that. So who's Nateska?
Who am I? Oh, man.
Oh wow.
Yeah, see, where do I start? What do you want to know, man? Okay, well, let me start from the beginning. I grew up in Pretoria, Gauteng. I'm from an Afrikaans background.
Mhm.
Yeah, interesting upbringing, like very family orientated, like really great. Did music from a young age, and grew up being really inspired by my older brother actually because he did music,
Okay.
and I grew up watching him do the things. And my mom was a big proponent for music education, so she had me doing music from a young age, and eventually, yeah, kind of the jazz bug bit a bit in high school.
Okay.
I think I heard some blues, I heard some Dixieland, I heard some Charlie Parker because I was playing the saxophone at the time,
Okay.
and then I fell into the jazz program at UCT. But yeah, it's been a long journey. We can get into some of the more details. But right now, what I am and what I do, most of the time I'm an educator, so I teach high school music, and I am a practitioner. So I perform, write my own music, arrange. And I'm involved in kind of the jazz festival space as well. So with the National Jazz Festival, National Youth Jazz Festival, and I'm also a student. I'm doing my master's through BITS.
Yeah.
So there's an academic side, research side there as well. So a bit of an all-rounder, if you can say it, put it that way. But yeah, I'm mostly an educator. I'm passionate about learning, passionate about teaching, and then everything else kind of revolves around that. But that's me. You must ask me more questions, man. I don't like talking about myself.
Cool, man. So I met you in East London.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and this has been my home for some years now, and we met through our brother Loiso, and he mentioned to me as I was preparing because I was still, in the villages. I was in the construction space back in the day. And then we're preparing for a rehearsal. I think there was going to be
African time.
yeah, I think there was going to be a concert or something, right?
Yeah.
And then he mentioned that, hey, man, you got to see this person. There's this person, she's playing, alto sax, and it's beautiful, I'm like, okay, I'm so looking forward. And then we meet, and then we find each other, in that space where we are doing this music. And little did we know that today, we'd be having this conversation over so many years since, the first time we met. But really, did it ever cross your mind that you'd be in East London, from the moment like you maybe moved from Cape Town, or maybe Pretoria, like?
Yeah. No, man, I had no idea where my path would take me. I remember when I went into to study music, I did the performance degree.
Yeah.
And when you go into the performance degree, I think the last thing in your mind, in the idealistic sense, is that you're going to teach. And my intention was never to teach, actually. But I think, as you go on that journey and you grow and you learn more about yourself, you learn more about what feeds you.
Yeah.
And I realized that as much as I enjoy performing, I didn't have the same kind of, I guess, hunger and drive for performance as a lot of my peers did.
Yeah.
And I almost always kind of gravitated more towards education side. And I was quite at a loss, to be honest. I think in the last semester of my degree, and I prayed about it, man. Like, it's like, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, what do you do with the music degree? Like now you have to go out there and
Oh
survive.
yeah.
And yeah, I just waited for the right opportunity. I just trusted that, when I saw the right thing, that I would know that that's the right thing, because I really had no idea. But I knew
Yeah.
I wanted to be in music. And then yeah, an advert for the current position that I'm in at Stirling High School in East London came across my path, and I saw it, and I just immediately resonated. And I'd known about East London and Stirling specifically because I had some classmates that had been to Stirling, and they
Yeah.
were quite well known for their big band and for the jazz program.
Mhm.
And so I just took the leap of faith and applied for the job. 2 phone calls later, I was appointed, and
Wow.
then I packed up my very few belongings that fitted into maybe like 2 suitcases, $300 in my bank account, and moved to East London. And I didn't think I would stay this long, but it's been almost 8 years
Yeah.
that I've been here. So but it's been amazing. I've been super blessed. I'm super grateful to be here. Yeah, and I've certainly grown a lot in a lot
Yeah.
of ways.
As a teacher, you spend so much time teaching these kids. Some of them are still trying to find their voice. Some of them, come with different influences that may not necessarily be the kind of breaks you want to use, when shaping, their musicianship. And what has been the most challenging thing? And I would imagine that by the time maybe you started teaching, some of them were not that young compared to you because you're teaching at high school. And what had been, what are those challenges? And also, what is it that, that moved you? Because, or maybe that still does, because when they get there, some of them, they just want to do this music thing because it's what they're obliged to do. But some of them follow through and, end up, using it even, in their life journey.
Yeah, so some of the challenges, I think, when you go into a position of teaching, you are in a very privileged position of being able to make a mark on their canvas of
Okay.
life, so to speak. And I think when you are bringing this person into your teaching room and it's a one-on-one situation, I think what is most important is that you realize that this is a human being in front of you that you are like wanting to help grow as a holistic human being.
Yeah.
And I think some of the most challenging parts is that you really have to care. You really have to care about the individual person. And if you come from a point of caring about their growth, caring about their development, whether they end up doing music long term or not, it's about kind of guiding and mentoring them in that process of them learning about who they are and gaining skill at the same time. So the music is almost just a vehicle for their personal development. And so as a teacher, I have a really unique opportunity to have much more direct input into a child's life or into a teenager's life, and they're at a very interesting stage of life. It's really wonderful to see them come in as grade 8s. When they're 13, 14-year-olds, they're really still children. And then to see them, to walk this journey with them, and to meet them where they're at each point, to give them space where they need to walk on their own and figure stuff out, but you still need to support them. And then to see them develop into fully fledged, adults who are confident. They are able to speak for themselves. They know what they like. They know what they don't like. They can carry themselves with, a presence and a gravitas, and so it's. I think the starting point is you really just have to care about the person that's in the room with you, and how you're going to use music to help the person develop as an individual, and grow. And whether they stick with music or not is one thing. But I mean, there's also the whole other musical aspect, of like what kind of music do they connect to, and how do you help them to develop and broaden their musical skill, their listening, their oral palette, if I can put it that way. Maybe you expose them to things that they've never heard before, and that could change their lives. You expose them to for example, taking them to the jazz festival in Makanda, where they get to interact with peers and interact with artists.
Yeah.
And that often just blows like their whole perspective open because they didn't know this world existed.
Yeah.
So you have an opportunity to broaden a young person's horizon and to show them, hey man, like look at what's out there for you to explore. And then you help them figure out what direction do they want to go in, and you really seek what is best for their development. So that's kind of the heart behind, I think, what I do and how I approach it. You know, you can get into the nitty gritty of it, but that's the principle that I try to stick to.
I see. Man, you touched on how, as a practitioner, you are in a space where now you are performing your own music.
Yeah.
And there's a specific song that we'll touch on here. Imvula. You've written a song entitled Imvula.
Yeah.
And it's in 3/4.
Yeah,
No,
like a
6/8.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have spoken word there by Lois, so it's in Xhosa, explaining the whole story. What came to your mind? Or what is it? What space? Can you take us into that space you were in when you composed that song? Because the reason maybe you've been here for quite some time, that it's that you are now immersed in some of the things that really show that you are not only here to just fulfill your obligations as a teacher, but also being a member of the community where you immerse yourself in the culture, in ways that shape people's lives here and whatnot. Like, what's the space? Can you please take us through that?
Sure. That's an interesting one. I think I won't go into the details of exactly where I was when I wrote it, or when the inspiration came. But essentially, I was at my place of work and it was raining outside, and I was just sitting and I was listening to the rain, the sound of the raindrops on the roof and around me, and I was just sitting there, and then I just heard, sometimes there's something just comes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that sounds like a bit of a vibe, and like I heard that whole, like Eastern Cape, like 2-chord vibe with the 3, and then like that vibe. And it's actually do you remember the gig that we did for Umtiza last year?
Yeah.
What was that the one that Brother Essie sang?
Oh wow.
Dizebo no.
Yeah, Dizebo no. Yeah.
Listen, so the chord, like the chords, like the chord progression for that song, that was actually in my head, that kind of parallel movement.
Yeah.
I was hearing that and I was like, oh man, this is cool. And like this sound
like
that's coming makes
modal
me the sound that's coming is making me, this is what the rain sounds like to me. And I knew that, I think the spirit or the vibe of the song wasn't coming from like a Western sound.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I can't call this rain. Imagine.
Oh wow.
Imagine, it just, and I was just like, no man. So then I sat there and I googled, man, what's the closer word for rain? I was like, I was like, I like the sound of that. And yeah, man, I think Loiso has always been a bit of a sounding board.
Yeah.
For me, in terms of like creative processes and songwriting. I mean, I love the music that he writes. And so sometimes we tend to send each other, voice notes, or like, oh man, like this is coming to mind. Like, what do you think of this? And he's always very encouraging, and very keen. And I love his voice. I love his storytelling abilities. I love how he engages an audience. And I really wanted to share that melody with him. So I went to the keys, kind of hashed out the chords, sang it over a bit, and then I sent it to him and I was like, man, what do you think of this? And then I had this idea of having the spoken word, like a story, like over it. And then I asked him to write a narrative, because then he started sharing with me about the significance of rain and the symbolism of rain in the Xhosa culture. And I really resonated with that, and I thought that it was a really beautiful story to tell and an opportunity to engage with the culture in that way. And so then he came up with 3 aspects of rain, and 3 stories, I guess, of rain that is home to him and home to his culture.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's a space. I've received quite a lot of like really positive feedback about that song, and it was quite surprising.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, especially because I'm a white person and I'm writing this song that I've been told sounds a lot like
Yeah.
what's it? He's seeing
You sing cool.
yeah,
Cool.
so
Got you.
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the space that I kind of went in. So
Yeah.
I think like you've known me for a long time, and I love learning about different cultures and
Yeah.
engaging with
Yeah.
people from different places and different languages. And there's a lot of beauty in the diversity that I see around me, and I love to highlight the things that are different, because that's where you really like see the beauty. If you try to make everything look the same, or put everything in the same category, then you just like miss out on a lot. So I like to engage and learn as much as I can. And so I've obviously absorbed something,
Yeah.
from my
Yeah.
time in East London, in the Eastern Cape, and from the music that I've heard in this space. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So that's that.
Oh, beautiful. To those that really want to hear the song, there's one way. Please come to the show tomorrow. Tomorrow night. We're gonna talk more about it.
Yeah.
But for now, let's play a song that really extends, to this beautiful story of Imvula. Let's play Spamdlalo Seliana.
And now, South African music at its best.
If you just joined in, you're at the right place. We're just having fun, minding our business, and hoping that you're going to join us. I'm having Nateska this evening. She's our beautiful guest, and man, we're so happy to have you here.
Thanks,
It's
man.
not every day that old friends visit.
Yeah, man.
To those that just joined in, you're listening to Jazz Outside the Box. This, is curated every Wednesdays, between 8 and 10. So from now on, if you don't have any program, this is your home, and I'm your father or your brother or your friend, whatever. Law is sending me is threatening me there by WhatsApp.
Oh, yeah?
He's saying don't shout my name on the radio. I'm like, oh, cool. Here's my big bro. We're just reflecting on Nateska's journey, her time in East London, and her moving this side, and her bringing that really connects to the whole, jazz journey she's committed to. And we're just reflecting on her music. She's written, and beautifully enough, tomorrow she's gonna be performing some of her tunes. We're gonna talk more about that, but yeah, for now, let's just enjoy the company. We're gonna ask her 1,000 questions,
Oh, goodness.
and I told her to bring like 5 liters of water, so that she doesn't grasp. So he doesn't gasp. She can just be cool, and we just continue. So you mentioned your involvement in the National Arts Festival, which is the biggest festival, by the way, in the country, and it's very important in the sense that she's one of the sisters or cool aunts. They sort of mentor these kids for the whole week, if not more than. How long does it?
Yeah, it's about a week.
It's about a week,
Yeah.
where you have all these kids, and then there's workshops, there's performances, and it's a great platform for students to learn, to engage. And am I correct when I'm saying that your paper is linked to the festival?
Yeah.
Okay, can you please tell us about that?
Yeah, sure.
I've been, I know, low key, like I've been like, okay, cool, but I'm like, okay, cool, we're gonna talk about it here.
Yes. No. Save it for the World Wide Web.
Exactly.
So I'm doing a research on the National Youth Jazz Festival, which is an education focused jazz festival that's been going on for the last 30 years. It started 30 years ago in Makanda, then called Grahamstown, as a schools jazz festival. And so I'm doing a case study on this festival, specifically looking at its use of education, and looking at how it has impacted jazz in South Africa over the last 2 decades specifically. I'm looking more at the last 2 decades. How it's impacted the development of South African jazz, but also jazz education in the country, because I don't necessarily want to say most, but a large percentage of South African jazz musicians that are, of my generation and even 1 to 2 generations above me, came through this festival. Either they were there as educators in the first, for the first few years, or they started as high school students or university students and came to this festival. The late Dr. Brian Tusi actually mentioned in his master's thesis, I could quote him in my research, where he says that so many of South Africa's jazz musicians got their first taste of jazz at a National Youth Jazz Festival, at one of the schools jazz festivals. So it's one of the places where high school kids, and I'm focusing on high school, on the impact on high school learners specifically, because that's my space where I'm most involved in. That is really where high school kids really get exposed to what real jazz is, because you can listen to something on a video, but it's not the same as the real life experience. It's not the same as being in the room, feeling the energy, seeing the interaction, hearing the sound in your face. and then being able to go sit in a room the next day and ask that person, hey man, what did you play at that point in the performance?
Yeah.
How did you make that sound on your horn?
Yeah.
What are the things that have really been helpful for you, to get you where you are? So it's a really special space. And so I'm looking at, what are the elements that combine at this festival that makes it so impactful, in inspiring kids, in networking, like bringing educators from across the country together, bringing students and musicians from across the country, and foreign musicians as well, bringing all of them together in this place in Makanda for a week, and something incredible happens there, and it just sparks sparks so much creativity and collaboration and motivation for people to continue on the art form. And so many high school students, they go to this jazz festival and then they realize, hey man, there are other people like me who are into this. I could do this for a living, and it actually impacts their life choices in a very real way. So I could go on for a long time, but so that is what my research is based on. Yeah.
Interesting. Is it raining?
Imvula.
Yeah. Interesting that we talk about your song entitled Imvula, and
this always happens, man. This happens every single time.
And we just played you Celiana. Celiana, It's Raining. So the song that we just played by Spamla Loss, of course, it's she's doing a cover version, but the original song is composed by Victor Ntoni. No, the festival, I mean, there's beautiful stories. I mean, I've had a lot of people, they talk about the experiences there, how it has shaped them, how it has influenced them to be better musicians. And I say sometimes that if you would have one tragic occurrence in Makanda in that particular week, you would have destroyed like 70 or 80% of South African musicians, jazz specifically, including a very young generation that will soon, take up the space. But great work, man, for the work, that you put, so that the whole thing is functional. But you happen to play a saxophone, right? Yeah. Alto sax, to be specific. And a lot of times you always find yourself in a bandstand with men.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because, it's not interesting, I don't know. But how do you navigate your way around that? And can you please just let us into your world for once? Maybe I'll understand from a feminine perspective, like how it feels to be, amongst men and kick ass at the same time.
Gosh, I'm not so sure if I do that, but thank you. To be honest, man, I actually don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So when I walk into the space, with you guys, like I remember coming to the African Time, the first African Time rehearsal that I came to in Loy's garage.
Yeah.
It doesn't even cross my mind that I'm the only woman in the room. I don't think about that.
Yeah.
Like it honestly doesn't. It's like sometimes, if I step back, well, two things I realize, like I'm the only woman and I'm often the only white person. But I don't think about that, when I step into this space, because I think if you put those categories on yourself, then like you're just going to end up limiting yourself or having some insecurity or taking on what other people have said, But when I walk in there, I'm like, hey, it's human beings. Like these guys are my brothers, and we're going to make music together. And that's really, I guess, the space that I got it from. I don't even think about the fact that I'm a woman when I'm in that space. And I think I've been quite, fortunate or blessed to have a fairly thick skin. So I when an environment is tough, because sometimes guys can be like a bit more, like rough and, rough comments and sarcasm, and especially, depending on what circle you're in. I mean, I was in Cape Town for a few years. I studied at UCT, and anyone who's been through, SACM, through College of Music there, they'll know what the vibe is, and sometimes it can be quite, rough. But like, I mean, you just deal with it, and you like, if it bothers you, then figure out why did it bother you, and you just work hard and you overcome,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I think, that's just obviously my personal experience. I can't speak for all women, but for me, I think having a thick skin has helped, and maybe it's also because I've got two brothers who are also incredibly talented individuals,
Okay.
musically
Okay.
talented.
Yeah.
So I'm quite used to being in a space where there are competitive boys
Yeah.
who are really good at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so there's a space there where when I walk into a room and there's just men, it feels familiar, and maybe just because of my family, context. But I really just go in. It's about making music, and if I don't even think about the fact that I'm a woman. Like, I think, like, there is a different energy that a woman brings to a space.
Yeah.
And it can be what you decide for it to be, because I'm an individual person, and I think there's a side of me that can be like really sweet and gentle, in that space, and there's also a side of me that can play hard, so you decide what you're going to express.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important to make sure that you hone your craft, that you believe in your abilities, like, be confident with what you've learned, and don't be afraid to own the space that you're in. And if you're there and you know that you've worked hard and that you sound good, own it.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, for me, a journey that I've been on has been to be honest about my weaknesses as well, and to be like, okay, like, where are the areas that I need to improve in, and also not to wait for people to book you as a musician. Like, I think sometimes you don't see a lot of women, like female instrumentalists, often on the bandstand, especially in the Eastern Cape. Like, I'm one of the few. Like, come on, ladies, where you at? But although that's changing, like, I think when you go to Cape Town, you'll see a lot more women like on the bandstand. But in the Eastern Cape, you don't see it that often. What was I saying? I think I've just like lost my train of thought. But I think just own the space that you're in, and make sure that you are on par with the industry. Hone your skill, hone your craft, work on your weaknesses. And this is what I was going to say. Don't wait for people to book you. If you're going to complain, I'm not being booked, like, just create your own project.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Put yourself out there, start something. That's the only way you're going to grow. And it's scary. Like, trust me, I know. I remember when I launched my Facebook page and all that stuff, I was like, man, am I even worthy of doing this? But you just have to take the step and be like, actually, like, I'm just going to start, and one step at a time, build your own thing. And then sooner or later, people start noticing, and you grow and you get better. So, but I don't think about the women and man thing, dude. I just walk in, I play, do my thing, and I see the guys that I'm with as brothers. So I engage as brothers. I don't, brothers and sisters. I don't see it as a competition. We're there to make music together. So that's the vibe.
Cool, man. We'll talk about those that are following you, especially on the socials. They will know that recently you were in Ghana.
Oh yeah.
And to present some academic, or should I say intellectual work in a conference. And those are quite few, by the way, especially in the music scene. And so you did a very beautiful thing by going to Ghana. You'll tell us about the experience, and maybe a bit of what the presentation was on, and then why Ghana specifically. I'm mentioning this because soon we are having SESRIM conference in UWC next week, and it's going to be incredible, because this is where most of the scholars in the musicology and ethnomusicology, music studies in academia will be presenting their papers under different topics. So can you just walk with us?
Yeah. So the Ghana trip, man, what an incredible opportunity. I'm so grateful. So there's an organization called the International Council for Traditional Music, although they're changing the name now to, which I think is a good thing, to the International Council for Traditions of Music and Dance. And it's like an academic organization
Cool.
that researchers and any academic or any student can be a part of. And they have an international, like a world conference every 2 years in a different country. And so this year just happened to be in Accra,
Okay.
which is the capital of Ghana. And my supervisor at WITS, Dr. Brett Piper, he's very involved with the organization, and he always goes to those conferences. And so obviously, through him, I heard about the conference, and I just took a chance and submitted an abstract. And they accepted my abstract. So I was like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
I'm going to Ghana.
Oh, wow.
And it was very, very exciting. I'd really been hoping and praying for an opportunity to travel and to see Africa. I really wanted to see other African countries. So this was an amazing opportunity. And so what happens at the conference is researchers and academics from all over the world come together for a week, and then there's presentations on the different research that they're doing, and usually there's like an overarching theme
Okay.
for the conference as well. This year, a lot of it had to do with kind of decolonizing research in Africa specifically, which is very interesting, and I think very relevant. I think I found it very relevant, especially considering that I'm a teacher, and so I was thinking a lot around decolonizing the curriculum, and how do I teach in a way that is more relevant to a South African child, in a diverse and complicated or complex social setting such as South Africa. So it was very interesting. So I had an opportunity to present my research on the festival, and it's a very positive experience. It was so great to be in a room full of people who are just so interested to hear about what everybody else is also doing. And I went as a master's student, and it was also so stimulating to be in a space where everybody is far more learned than you. So you learn, and you listen to these people talk, and you're like,
Wow.
These guys have really done their work, and it's so inspiring to be there and to realize, okay, wait, there's like so much more out there, that I could, explore. So it was very inspiring, and I really enjoyed it. Ghana is an incredible country. I definitely recommend going to visit it. Beautiful people. It was a lovely, lovely experience. I also had the opportunity to connect with some of the local musicians, and that was really special. Got to play with some of the local musicians. So I think it was just all in all really broadening for me, and stretching and inspiring. And so coming back, it's made me think quite differently about a whole lot of things, and just really broaden my perspective on music and education and like the world in general, like meeting so many different people and hearing about everything that's going on in the world. Like it's so vast, man. It is so vast. So that's a bit of it in a nutshell. I don't know if you have any specific,
maybe what's that one probably highlight that you can say cool when it comes to decolonization of the curriculum, this one specific point really.
I think there are a few things, but I think what comes to mind for me right now, that kind of really stood out for me in the way that a lot of the academics there were talking about things and approaching things, is that previously, if you look at ethnomusicology, and I mean, even that term is problematic, but thinking about researchers that came from Europe to Africa to study African music or music, different expressions of music and dance, and you can't really separate the two, like the music and dance are like one and the same in different African cultures. And obviously their research, they were coming from a very Western perspective and a Western lens. And so then what happens is there's a lot of misrepresentation and misinterpretation that happens because the explanations of things are being done through that Western European lens, and it's not being done by the actual knowledge holder. And so I think there's a space where, I wouldn't say delete information or delete influence. Like in South Africa, for example, we can't erase the European influence. Like that's absolutely impossible. And a lot of that knowledge is still valuable. But when you look at a context, instead of looking at it, if you're an outsider, instead of looking at it through your lens, like sit down and be a student and hear from the actual knowledge holder what it means and how it should sound and what the place of it is in that social context, and then take it from there. So let the actual knowledge holder be the person to
educate you,
rather than you looking at it and then based on your frame of reference make deductions and conclusions based on what you see, but you actually have no understanding of what is happening in that context. So so acknowledgement and value for the knowledge holders in a particular context, especially if you're coming from an outside perspective. But also, I think there's this place where if you're in a tertiary kind of institution, there isn't really much of a space for people. So like, okay, if you think about like indigenous African music education, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say you want to go and study African music at UCT, like an African music program. It's quite like, in order to lecture or teach in a university, you need to have certain qualifications.
Of course.
Right. But the people who hold the knowledge are sitting deep in the Transkei.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if it's not Eastern Cape specific. And they do not have the piece of paper that says that they have a PhD in whatnot. So how do you open doors for the people who are the knowledge holders to be teaching in like a tertiary situation to impart that knowledge? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's those kinds of things that need to be thought about and are considered by our institutions.
And maybe the whole decolonial maybe agenda is in restructuring even the institutions themselves, other than the curriculum that is in the institutions. Because what comes to mind, as you're saying, is that in a way you still have institutions that are gatekeepers. They can't get these people to be employees here, but they can get whatever they want from them and still be the ones that will still teach this knowledge. So what you are saying is really opening up a lot of possibilities, or rather ways in which these things can be approached. And even like just because when you say that the doors should be opened so that the holders of the very same knowledge that we want should be prioritized and be at the forefront because they have the knowledge, and then we just sit back, maybe ask the seekers and be students, and then allow the people that hold this information and to lead the way. And you just made me realize a lot of things, because I always say this. For example, if you look at what our institutions do, right, tertiary institutions, for example, if they're interested in a particular group that is somewhere in the so-called Transkei area, they will go take them, bring them into the institution, and then have them do masterclass or whatever, instead of the institution itself to go and be in the village, spend whatever time they need to spend so that they can learn in that contextualized environment where all these things make sense. For example, if you look at Xhosa music, you'll find it talking about certain places, rivers, blah, 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 blah. And now if you take someone from where all that is, you bring them into a space that is like this, and now when they talk about things or when they sing about things, then you will start having questions. What is this? Because you've never been to their space. It's like things are being,
it just becomes a representation of the authentic. Like, as soon as you take the music and the dance out of its original space where it operates in the community, not as a performance but as part of the existence of that community. As soon as you take it out of it, then it becomes a representation. It's no longer the authentic thing. So you can't, you will never get the full picture of it once you take it out of it, and that's just the reality, I think, of education in a lot of ways, where we see and experience representations of things. We very rarely actually experience the authentic thing. And I think it's important to remember that, even in the way that you interpret something, to realize that when I'm sitting in, as an audience member and I'm watching, maybe like, the Zulu warriors, doing a dance in front of me, that is a representation of something that exists for them in a real community setting, but it's been transplanted, for a performance setting. And as wonderful as it is, I think it's important to realize that is just a representation of something that's actually very real and authentic, that happens somewhere else where I can't see and where I'm not a part of. So I think just the lens through which you look at something, I think you have to come at it from a very, humble, humble position, and from a point of wanting to learn, and learn and receive rather than wanting to analyze and dictate and make assumptions and make conclusions.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, no, it's an interesting topic.
Wow. Yeah, that's our Neteska Horton. You have a beautiful message coming from Muzipo. She's saying, late but here, lovely guest.
Thank you.
Isn't she lovely? And then we have Spogazi Ngokolo.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she's saying very valid point. She is alluding to what you are contributing to the conversation, or rather your thoughts on this whole decolonial agenda. So let's play one song, and then we do the last segment of the vibe. And yeah, I hope you guys are still fine. Let's play this music. That was Thandiso Mazwai singing Ndiahamba. Beautiful rendition covered in that beautiful album entitled Belede. Of course, that's her mom's name. The whole album was done to pay homage to her mom. It's a beautiful project, and she's being accompanied by the great Anda Skade on drums and Brahe Bidzwaidi on the upright bass and Duduzo Makatini on piano. If you just joined in, you are with Zuko Yigi, and I'm joined by a beautiful guest, Nateska Horton. We've been reflecting on her beautiful journey, that has been very significant and with great contributions she's made in the jazz fraternity, particularly in the space of high school, where she guides, nurtures, teaches kids to hone their talent, kids to find their voice and to be better human beings. And we are just also reflecting on her journey and the things she does. And one thing we did not talk about is her puppy. Yeah, but it's
My
okay.
dog.
But it's okay. So it's Women's Month.
Yeah.
And it's such a monumentous month, that carries, all these, should I say, pearls that represent women, or should. And of course, in my view, it should not just, end in this month. It should be something that is done, every time we think about it, every time it should be with us in our subconscious faculty. So what are your thoughts, like, as we still spending time celebrating women, their works, particularly that have to do with the redressing and confronting the whole repressing vices, and we remember women for their contributions. There's one thing about women. Us men can be very diplomatic.
Mm-hmm.
When women want to put an end to something, they just go out and do it. They don't think about it, they just do it. And so yeah, what are your thoughts around this month and that celebrates women?
Yeah, man. Being a woman can sometimes be quite complex, and I think we definitely need to, embrace our femininity and the strength of what it means to be a woman. Not in trying to be like a man, but in the things that set us apart, that bring the balance to society.
Yeah.
And I know this topic, and people have their opinions and their viewpoints and things, and that's totally fine. I guess I'm here to share mine. But I think what women bring in terms of our ability to nurture the emotional strength that we have to shoulder burdens that just in like a supportive way in society. Like, sometimes women are the ones that have to hold it together. And I think that is a particular strength that women have. Like, we know how to grit our teeth and to do what is necessary to get through. And I think that takes real strength and courage and bravery. And I think a brave woman, or bravery in a woman, might look a bit different to what you might see bravery in a man look like. But for me, I think being a woman, what I've been learning, I think, is to embrace the nurturing side of me, and the desire to nurture. And I think for a long time growing up, I was very, very very ambitious, very driven, and I still am. Like, I still very, very much am, very career driven in a lot of ways. But in a lot of ways, it's out of necessity, because I'm not married. I'm still a single woman, and so I am very ambitious, and I want to do great things. But I've also learned how to appreciate the value of motherhood, for example. I'm not a mother, but I think in dealing with children
Yeah.
and being in that space of working with children, I think you come to really appreciate the role of a mother.
Yeah.
And I think mothers really need to be valued a lot more, and mothering needs to be valued, whether it's your biological children or
yeah.
children that are in your community.
Mm.
So I think there's something particular and something very special that women bring to the table in that space, and also I really want to honor that. The
Yeah.
importance of nurturing and mothering and bringing the different kind of strength that we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to help and come alongside, not to be subservient,
Mm.
but to come alongside the men in our community to move forward. Like, we need to link arms. It's
Mm.
if you come from a biblical perspective, which, like, I'm a Christian, so it's like Eve was taken from Adam's side, like side, not his feet or like the ground underneath him, like from his side, which means that
Yeah.
there is a togetherness, a side by sideness that needs to happen with women and men, and I think we bring something different that men need. The same way that I think men bring a strength and a protection that women need. That might be a hot take, but I really think that the woman's capacity to nurture and to mother and to care
Yeah.
is really important, and I think that needs to be valued more. I'm all for being a career-driven person. I am, like,
Yeah.
most of my time goes into my job, but I'm certainly grateful that my mother was present
Yeah.
and she mothered us. So I think, if my season of life ever changes, I think I would definitely embrace that side of being a woman a lot more.
Okay.
But at the moment, I have the space and the freedom to really go for, like, PhD, like, let's do it.
Yeah.
But just value the things that make you a woman, that make you feminine, that caring, the softness, like, there's strength in that softness.
Yeah.
That's I guess all I can say about that for now.
Mm.
People have their opinions,
Well,
but that's mine.
Yeah. Well, you've had Jens. She's single. She's here. She's career
my
driven. She's said everything. I think that's the whole, list of things you need to know. Shoot your shot. I'm here, your
Oh my
boy.
God.
I hooked you up. Cool.
So credit Zuko Yigi and Keith and Gacy Radio. In the wedding nuptials.
And I was waiting for you when you're talking about the side of nurturing, and I was waiting for you to mention your puppy, but you did
my
not.
dog. Yeah, I just got a dog. Yeah, she's great.
Cool. Man, thank you so much for being with us. And tomorrow you are part of a series entitled Iculo Kamama.
Yeah.
And we remember, our moms through, many things. But I think a song is really something that just comes out, immediately, because we know them for singing for us. When we're still, kids, we know them for just singing throughout when they're doing their chores, whether they're sad, whether they're happy. So yeah, man. And to people that really want to check your concert out, and what do you have for them?
In the gig.
Yeah.
So I've put together 2 sets. I guess quite a variety of music. Things that I really enjoy playing. I guess it's a bit of a reflection of the different influences that I have.
Yeah.
In terms of the straight ahead jazz, there's some of that. There's some South African spice in there, some of my own, compositions. And then there's one song that is, dedicated to my mom, which is part of the whole series. Which is it's a very sweet song from an old musical originally, but we've you're playing on the gig, so we've turned it into a bit of a jazz waltz. Yeah, in case you've forgotten.
Cool.
Zuko Yigi on the bass.
It's such an honor.
Yeah, so it's going to be a mix of things.
Yeah.
A little bit of something for everybody, I think. And I'll also be featuring Loyiso.
Nice.
Loyiso, my brother, and as Sakile Simani is also going to be joining me on the bandstand. He's also a real brother. Very excited to have him. I always feel inspired when he's there playing with me. So I'm very honored to have him there too. And I'm really looking forward to that, man. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be part of the series, and grateful for the opportunity to share music and to grow through the experience. Yeah.
Well, you've had please do check it out. It's happening at Berea Legends Creative Hub. The gig starts at 6:30, but you can start making your way there at about 6 so that you can just settle and just wait for the gig. It's gonna be beautiful. A lot of people are going to that gig. I've got friends from Tata that will be in town. They're joining us tomorrow. There's a lot of people that are so looking forward to um, watching you and experiencing you on stage. Yeah, this is Neteska Horton, and yeah, um, she wears many hats. She's a musician, teacher, an academic, and mother for now to a dog. Yeah, she does so many things. Man, we're so blessed to have you in the East London community. We don't take it lightly that you have assumed a role that allows you to shape, young minds and assist them to be better humans, not only as musicians, but just as human beings. And that is not an easy task. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
We
thanks,
really
man.
appreciate you and all your efforts, even in the National Arts Festival. I can imagine how demanding and how tiring, the whole thing is, and having to be there, for more than a week and sharing your heart and guiding these young people. And we thank you for that. We just want to say thank you, and then let's play you a very nice song as we watch you leave us in peace. Um, yeah,
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, thanks for having me.
yeah. And is there any message perhaps that you wanna send out to your people wherever they are?
It's just thanks for the support. It's. I'm sure you resonate with this, like, without the friends and family and the community that encourage you and support you in your endeavors and are there to cheerlead you on, especially when things get tough.
Yeah,
It really means a lot. Like, those people who come to the gigs, it's always the
yeah,
same people at the
yeah,
gigs.
yeah,
And yeah, really grateful for that, and grateful for the people that are there through the thick and thin.
yeah,
And yeah, like, looking forward to many more years of community and friendship and
yeah.
fellowship. So yeah, just gratitude, man.
Man, thank you so much. Let's play this as we watch you leave us in peace.
Cool, man.